She smirked. Divorce me then, half is mine. I nodded quietly. But behind the scenes, I froze the accounts, hired a PI, and watched her lose everything. I never expected one little notification to change everything. I was 34, at my desk, going through the day's emails when my phone buzzed. I glanced down and read, "Transaction alert $30,000. Lexington Luxury Boutique." For a second, I thought it was a mistake. Lexington Luxury? I'd never been. The figure on the screen sat there like a mistake I couldn't ignore. I opened the bank app. The charge had cleared. The name attached to the card made the room tilt. Jessica. We'd been married for months. It had all moved fast. A few months of dating, an engagement, then a small wedding with people who mattered. When Jessica first came to the United States from Mexico, she had almost nothing. She told me about the early days here. Long hours, little money, the constant feeling of starting over. I had helped where I could. We promised each other a fresh start, a team. Seeing her name next to $30,000 felt like a betrayal before I even spoke. I called. No answer. I texted. No reply. When she finally walked in that evening, she carried shopping bags I didn't recognize, labels I'd only seen in glossy pages. She looked like she'd had a good day. I was still staring at my phone. "Jessica," I said. "What is this?" I held the screen toward her. The transaction, the store name, the number, all of it hung between us. She paused, then set the bags down carefully. "Why are you so worked up?" she said. Her voice was level, almost bored. "It's just shopping. Just shopping." The words tasted wrong. 30,000 was not casual spending. It was a house payment, a year's tuition, a solid chunk of a life plan. We talked about money before we married. We agreed on saving. "You spent 30,000 where? Who permitted you to even use that card?" She rolled her eyes, the motion quick and impatient, and said, "Relax. You're overreacting. I deserve nice things. You can afford it." That answer landed like a slap. I thought of conversations we'd had about building towards something. A house, a retirement fund, careful steps. I thought of the way she'd hugged me the first night she slept in my apartment, of how she said I was her family now. I thought of the small lies you tell yourself when things are comfortable, that everything will work out, that love will be enough. After she shrugged and walked off to the bedroom, I pulled up more transactions. Another entry glared at me. $20,000, wire transfer. The recipient wasn't a bill or a bank listed in Mexico. There was a name I didn't recognize. My head started sorting through possibilities that all ended the same way. Fraud. A mistake. A hidden inheritance. None fit. I texted her again that night, asking where the money had gone. Her reply was short. "None of your business." That was a new tone from her. I had heard defensiveness before, but never this blunt. Worry moved beneath the anger. Why would she hide something? Why would she throw tens of thousands around and then tell me not to ask questions? I tried to keep control. I didn't want a scene. We were newly married. People whisper about red flags and rush decisions. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe there was an explanation. But the knot in my chest tightened. I sat on the couch and replayed the last few months in my head. There were small things I'd written off. An inflated interest in brands. Weekend plans she kept vague. A tendency to dismiss budget talks. Little choices that suddenly looked like signposts. I remembered the day I proposed. Raw, hopeful, convinced we were doing the right thing together. I remembered telling myself that helping her was simply what you do when someone has had a hard road. Now I wasn't sure what I'd been helping build. I had questions, and the silence felt heavier than any argument. When she came back into the living room, she was serene, like nothing had shifted. "Eat," she said. "Then go to bed. We can talk tomorrow." I wanted to ask then, wanted the truth in plain words. Instead, I held my tongue and watched her. I told myself I would wait. But waiting felt dangerous. Not knowing felt worse. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept circling the same questions. Where did the 20,000 go? Why did she act so cold? And how long had this been happening? By morning, my exhaustion turned into focus. I opened my laptop and went through every recent transaction. The picture started to form. Small charges I had ignored before now looked different. Designer restaurants, online boutiques, hotel bookings that didn't line up with the trips she told me about. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, but the numbers didn't lie. One entry sat heavier than the rest. $20,000 wire transfer. No description, no explanation, just money gone. When I confronted her later, I held nothing back. "Jessica, where's the 20,000? Who did you send it to?" She was on the couch scrolling her phone. Without looking up, she said, "Don't worry about it. I'm your husband. It's my money too. I deserve to know." Her tone shifted, sharp and flat. "It's nothing you need to know. Don't push me." That reply stunned me more than the spending itself. Not only was she avoiding the truth, but she was daring me to challenge her. I pushed again. You can't just take money without telling me. You need to explain. She finally looked up, her face expressionless. If you don't like it, divorce me. But remember, half of what's yours is mine now. The words landed like a blade. Divorce. Half. There was no hesitation, no attempt to calm me, not even guilt. Just entitlement. For the next few days, it felt like I was living with a stranger. She avoided me, closed the bedroom door for hours, and when we did cross paths, she acted as if I were the problem for even asking. The warmth that once defined us had vanished. I kept looking back at the months we'd spent together before marriage. Had I missed the signs? She had arrived in the US with nothing. No savings, no stability, no safety net. I helped her with rent, bills, and even paperwork. She always told me she was grateful, that she couldn't have made it without me. I believed her. But now, every memory twisted. Was it gratitude or calculation? She'd always loved expensive things, the kind of bags and clothes that cost more than a month's rent. I had brushed it off as taste. She had girls' trips, where she'd come home tired, carrying new outfits. I assumed she was just enjoying life after struggling for so long. When she grew defensive over small questions, I chalked it up to stress. Now it all looked different. At night, I lay awake replaying everything. Her laughter, her affectionate words, her promises during the vows. Were they real, or just a performance? The thought ate at me. I wasn't angry about the money alone. Money could be replaced. What couldn't be replaced was the feeling that the woman I married didn't care about me, only what I provided. Lying there in the dark, I realized the hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was admitting to myself that she might have never loved me the way I thought she did. Maybe I had been nothing more than her safety net, her shortcut into a life she couldn't build on her own. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to believe there was some explanation I hadn't uncovered yet. But her cold words kept echoing in my mind. Divorce me. Half is mine. It wasn't an argument. Her words didn't leave me. Divorce me. Half is mine. They played in my head every time I saw her walk across the room. There was no apology, no sign of regret, just confidence that I was stuck and she had the upper hand. A part of me wanted to forgive, or at least believe this was reckless spending and not something deeper. But when I thought back to that night, the way she said it so casually, it told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't sorry. That's when I realized our marriage wasn't really a partnership. It was a transaction. I couldn't let her walk away with half of what I had worked for. If she wanted to fight, I wasn't going to meet her with anger in the moment. I had to be smarter. So I played along. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't question her when she left the house with excuses. I didn't bring up the money again. Instead, I smiled, acted calm, and let her think I was still holding on to the marriage. Meanwhile, I started preparing. The first step was protecting myself. I froze our joint account, opened one in my name only, and redirected everything I earned straight there. She didn't notice at first. She was too busy with shopping trips, brunches, and nights out that she never explained. The second step was finding out the truth about that wire transfer. I couldn't ignore it. $20,000 doesn't just disappear into thin air. So I hired a private investigator. It felt strange, like something out of a movie, but I needed answers that Jessica would never give me. Within a week, I had them. The money hadn't gone to the family back home or to pay off debt. It had gone to a man named Tyler. And it wasn't just a transfer. The investigator showed me photos, Jessica meeting him at bars, at expensive restaurants, sometimes walking into hotels together. They weren't old friends catching up. They were together. I stared at those pictures for a long time. Her hand in his. Her smile. The way she looked at him. It was different from the way she looked at me these days. My chest felt heavy. She wasn't just careless with money. She was living another life. And I was the one paying for it. I thought back to our wedding day. The vows. The promises. The way she told me I was her everything. All of it felt hollow now. She hadn't just broken those promises. She had never meant them in the first place. The realization didn't make me cry. It didn't even make me yell. Instead, I felt myself grow cold. Something inside me shifted. When she came home late again that week, I didn't confront her. I just asked if she wanted dinner. She smiled, said she wasn't hungry, and went upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the PI's folders sitting in my drawer. She thought I didn't know. She thought she was still in control. But every move she made now was only building the case I would use against her. Inside, I was done. The love, the hope, the plans, they had all been replaced by a single thought. She wanted to take half my life's work, but I wasn't going to let her. The photos from the investigator sat in my drawer like loaded weapons. Every time I passed by, I felt their weight. I could have thrown them in her face the moment I saw them. But I didn't. I chose silence. That silence was my armor. Each night, Jessica came home later than the last. Sometimes she'd smell of perfume that wasn't hers. Sometimes she'd act overly cheerful, asking meaningless questions before disappearing into the bedroom. I smiled, nodded, and acted as if nothing was wrong. Inside, I was keeping score. The turning point came one night over dinner. She set down her fork and said casually, almost rehearsed, "Mark, this isn't working. Let's just get divorced. You give me half, and we'll both move on." Half. That word echoed in my mind. Not love, not rebuilding, not fixing what was broken. Just half. I looked at her calmly. "If that's what you want." She didn't notice the shift in me. She thought I was beaten. The next morning, I met with my lawyer. I laid everything out. The unauthorized spending, the bank transfers, the private investigator's photos. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes sharpening as he flipped through the evidence. "This isn't just grounds for divorce," he said. "This is financial fraud and marital misconduct. She won't see a penny." It was the first moment I felt steady again. We filed the paperwork, citing her actions clearly. I asked the process server to deliver the papers at home, right when she was hosting a wine night with her girlfriends. I'll never forget her face. She opened the envelope, her smile slipping as her eyes darted across the page. Her friends looked at her, confused, while she tried to keep her composure. She muttered something under her breath and excused herself. That night, the silence in the house was different. It wasn't mine anymore, it was hers. She knew I had struck back. The weeks that followed were tense. She tried to paint herself as the victim, telling anyone who would listen that I was controlling and financially abusive. But when it came time for court, stories didn't matter. Facts did. The evidence spoke louder than either of us. Bank records, wire transfers, photos of her with Tyler. Each piece landed like a hammer. I watched her lawyer shuffle papers, looking more defeated with every passing minute. Jessica sat stiffly, her confidence draining with each document displayed. The judge asked direct questions, and she had no good answers. When the investigator's photos were shown, the room fell quiet. Jessica didn't look at me. She just stared at the table, her face tight. I felt no joy in that moment, only confirmation. The truth I had suspected was now undeniable, laid out for everyone to see. Her side tried to push back, but it was weak. She claimed the money transfers were loans. She insisted the shopping was a misunderstanding. None of it held up. When the session ended that day, my lawyer leaned over and whispered, "It's over for her." And I believed him. Jessica walked out ahead of me, her steps quick, shoulders tight. For the first time since we married, she looked smaller, not larger than life. She had played her hand, thinking I would fold. Instead, she was the one cornered, and she knew it. The final hearing came faster than I expected. Weeks of back and forth had boiled everything down to one decision. Jessica walked in wearing a dark blazer, trying to look put together, but her eyes betrayed her. She knew what was coming. The judge read through the findings slowly, clearly. Her spending wasn't just reckless, it was intentional. The transfers weren't accidents. And the evidence of her relationship with Tyler sealed everything. In the end, the ruling was firm. She would not get half. She wouldn't get anything. On top of that, she was ordered to pay back a portion of what she had taken. Jessica's face went pale. She had walked into this marriage expecting comfort and a permanent safety net. Now she was leaving with debt, and a man who only seemed to stick around as long as she had access to my bank account. I should have felt empty. Instead, I felt lighter. Walking out of the courthouse, the air felt different. It wasn't relief alone, it was clarity. For months, I had been second-guessing myself, wondering if I had imagined the distance, the coldness, the signs. Now I had proof. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I had simply trusted someone who never deserved it. A few weeks later, word got back to me through a mutual friend. Jessica and Tyler didn't last. The moment her accounts dried up, so did his affection. He left, and she moved into a small apartment, picking up retail work to get by. Sometimes I'd see her name pop up on social media, posting vague quotes about toxic people and starting fresh. The irony wasn't lost on me. She had played the role of the victim so well that she almost convinced herself. The truth, though, was simple. She thought she had won the jackpot marrying me. Instead, her greed ended everything. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't losing her. I realized how close I came to wasting years of my life on someone who never loved me. That $30,000 notification that made my stomach drop in my office? It ended up being the best warning sign I could have received. Without it, I might still be in the dark, clinging to a marriage that was nothing but an act. Now I'm rebuilding. Slowly, carefully. I've learned to protect not just my money, but my peace. I've learned that trust should be earned, not given blindly. And I've learned that sometimes, silence and patience are stronger than anger. Jessica wanted half. She left with nothing. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.